This is Rare, Father Raider Tape Blog, coming at you with another edition of MLB Observations of the end of the 2023 season, going into this year's 2024 season, Hotstove Edition Week 9. So the Cubs signed catcher Joe Hudson to minor league deal, obtained organizational depth. The White Sox, after acquiring two catchers in the offseason, have DFA'd third-string catcher Carlos Perez and officially outright him off the roster. Makes total sense. Michael Perez, another catcher, and Albert Suarez, a reliever, have signed with the Orioles a minor league deal. Again, that's organizational depth. Cubs have also picked up Colton Brewer. That's organizational depth. Max Castillo, the Red Sox picked him up. Brian Hudson was traded to the Brewers for Justin Chambers. Again, just a small minor deal. Dodgers trying to clear guys off the roster. Reds signed Justin Breuil to minor league deal. The Red Sox did DFA Mauricio Rivera. Diamondbacks signed Logan Allen. The White Sox signed Brett Phillips. The reason I like that move is because I've seen it on TV that Brett Phillips is an amazing fourth outfielder. He can run the bases well. He can play the outfield. He has a good clubhouse presence. And the White Sox clubhouse has kind of not been great. There was a year where they were, like, really good and everybody was having fun. And then there was, like, not having fun. And, you know, Griffey's not, like, edgy and they stuff and let it go. And they thought that Daryl Boston was too, like, uncle-ish to the players, letting them do whatever they wanted, the cool uncle. Tim Anderson's issues of dividing the clubhouse. So if Brett Phillips is on your roster, I feel like he's going to kind of bring the roster together, and I feel like that's a good thing. And I like that move. I don't know how much of an impact he's going to make specifically on them winning or being better. I just like the move because they went through so many outfielders last year, like Hamilton, Marisnik, Clint Frazier, Trace Thompson. They had so many backup outfielders on the team that it's just, okay, cool. Red Sox, though, made a big move, signed former White Sox starting pitcher Lucas Giolito, who spent the second half of the season split between Anaheim and Cleveland and didn't pitch really well since the trade. He gets a $38.5 million deal with the Red Sox for 2 years. And then I was like, okay, cool. He at one point was the White Sox ace. Chris Sale is on the Red Sox, and he was 1 point the White Sox ace. That'd be cool if the two of them tag team together. And Boston's not a great team, but at least they have two guys who have a track record of being productive at the top of the rotation. Nah. The Red Sox trade Chris Sale, pay it for some of the contract, or for most of it, which is pretty stupid. All they get it back is Vaughn Grisham. I'm not making fun of Vaughn Grisham, but this dude lost the shortstop gig that was guaranteed to him when Dansby Swanson left the Atlanta Braves in order to, and he loses his job to Orlando Arcia, who lost his job to Willie Adames in Milwaukee, and it started a chain reaction because of the original Rays having Wander Franco, which we'll get to later, pushing him out from Tampa to Milwaukee, which pushed Arcia out. Then Arcia was sent to Atlanta and became an outfielder and utility player, and he somehow beat him out, and he had an all-star caliber first half of the season. So that's why I'm like, this guy loses out to that. Barely played when Ozzie Albies missed time due to injury. Like, how good of a player is going to be? The Red Sox got Mundesai from the Royals, and he's never lived up to his potential due to injury. They got Luis Urias, a guy who's more of a utility player, but a former top infield prospect, who's also never healthy, lived up to his potential. Trevor Story had a bad first season at second baseman, and then he had Tommy John surgery and missed a long time, and he's their shortstop. So, like, the Red Sox middle infield acquisitions have not been very, very good since the Bogart's departure, and them not really having a second baseman, obviously. So I don't know how good of a move that is, especially if you're going to eat up a huge amount of the contract and all you're getting is one player. That's where I'm like, okay, cool, whatever. So speaking of Giolito, I think it's a good move for the Red Sox. If Giolito pitches one season for a team, yeah, the Red Sox always had expectations, but them and the Yankees weren't good last year, okay? Toronto was almost in the playoffs, and Baltimore and Tampa Bay were playoff teams, right? You're kind of at the bottom. So give him, like, let's say he pitches really, really well. They pick up his option, and he pitches the second season, or they trade him at deadline. It doesn't really matter, because he's got one more year potentially. They can get more back for him, and it'd be cool to see him come pitch in Chicago. White Sox did sign Chris Flexen to a $1.7 million deal. I hate this move. I'm a Mets fan also. I wear different hats, obviously, in these videos because I have so many. Chris Flexen is a failed pitcher. Like Paul Sewald. They're failed starting pitchers who had to convert to being relievers. And the only good thing is Paul Sewald has had a recent success as a relief pitcher and a closer that got him traded to Arizona to be their closer, and they went to the World Series. The dude was so bad that the Mariners dumped him on the Mets, who picked up whatever money that the Mariners stupidly gave them, and then they cut him the Mets because they just didn't care about money, and he went to Colorado, and they were like, well, we have zero starting pitcher because all of our pitchers got hurt. Stretched him out, and he was a starter, and he pitched okay for Colorado. But for the White Sox, I like the Eric Fetty move because he was really good recently. Flexen hasn't been a good starting pitcher his whole entire career. So Flexen is just going to be a reliever, and the Sox are stuck paying him $1.7 million. Red Stove signed a former Sox prospect, Frankie Montas, a known PED user and an injury-prone Tommy John, all this other stuff, pitcher, who, when the Yankees got him, he was never healthy, okay? Former Dodger and A pitcher also. But it's a one-year, $60 million deal. The Reds are really, really hoping that he is able to get himself back in order for the thing, because the dude's never healthy, and the Reds have all these young pitchers like Hunter Green, to name one specifically. It's like the pressure of all these young starting pitchers being very important in the rotation did not really go so well for them, because obviously they were surprisingly in the playoff hunt, and I thought they'd just be bad because they were bad the year before. So getting a veteran like Frankie Montas is good for them if he's healthy. I don't know if he's going to be healthy, but that's an okay move, and if he is healthy enough, but the Reds are not having a good season, they can always flip him at the deadline. Zach Plesac, a former mainstay of the Cleveland Guardians and Indians rotations when they were making the playoffs and winning this division for the wild card teams, but still losing in the playoffs, had some off the field issues at one point. He was cut by Cleveland. The Angels signed him. Guess what? The Angels lost Shohei Ohtani. Yeah, Ohtani's not going to pitch this year, but Shohei Ohtani is one of the best pitchers in all of baseball. The Angels really, really need pitching. They don't have it. That's the reason why Trout and Pujols, when they're on the team together, two generational players, and then you had Ohtani, never won and never went to the playoffs. It's because they didn't have pitching. They spent their money on position players when they didn't need to, like Anthony Rendon and David Fletcher and Jarrett Walsh and all these other guys who just, why are you wasting your time with them? So that's a buy low move. If the Angels are bad again, they can always flip them at the deadline. Jason Kinsler, no, he's now the Cubs Director of Player Development, leaving the Houston Astros. Interesting that Cubs hire someone from the Astros. Tucker Barnhart, former Cub, has signed a minor deal with the Diamondbacks. That Herrera guy, most teams probably would not make him their backup. And Gavin Moreno really had a breakout season, pushing out former top prospect Carson Kelly. So there's room that, literally, he's had some injuries at the catcher position, and Herrera's not that great. That Tucker Barnhart, a former, I think, two-time Gold Glove winner, could definitely find his way into being the backup catcher in Arizona. Padres signed this Wook Go for a 2-year deal. This is after they signed that other reliever for 5 years. Both of them have extensive experience as closers and reliever, and the Padres lost Josh Hader and a bunch of other relievers, so they're building up their bullpen with foreign imports, and that's a pretty good decision from them. Kevin Newman also has gone to the Diamondbacks on minor deal. The former Pirates shortstop who lost his job to O'Neal Cruz, then became a utility player, and then signed with the Reds, and then all the Reds' young infielders came up, and he's out there playing outfield and DH at first base, when he's a really good defensive infielder. He's probably a really good one, and the Diamondbacks have a rookie who came up last year that they're going to let him be the starting shortstop. If that doesn't work out, Geraldo Perdomo, who made the All-Star team, will play there. But then, obviously, they got Romaine Rivera, Jace Peterson, the veteran, corner infielder at third base. So the question will be if Newman can make it as a backup or not. Now to get to the Wander Franco story. Remember, the Dominican Republic was district attorney office was out for a warrant. Well, he's been detained officially, and there's 2 people filing charges. The third one did not, and we'll see how that goes. But you all see that domino effect. The Rays signed this guy. They give him this huge, massive contract. So they bumped their productive shortstop, Willie Adames, to Milwaukee. He then bumps out Orlando Arcia. And Orlando Arcia has to be a backup, minor league player. And then the Braves have an opening at shortstop. He takes that opening and bumps Vaughn Grisham out. Where does Vaughn Grisham go? Now he's in Boston. You see all these domino effects. Tim Piper has been hired as a third base infield coach and in charge of base running for the Padres under, Mike Schultz. Mike McCoy, former Blue Jays utility player, and Pat Sullivan are now the new assistant hitting coaches, or Ryan Marana is the MLB field coordinator. And they've announced that Ruben Niala, who is the pitching coach, and also the bullpen coach, Brian Esposito, will be the bench coach, and Brian Esposito, the catching coach and game strategy. So the Padres are not going to officially hire a bench coach, which is kind of weird. They're going to have their pitching coach take on some of the responsibility, and their catching coach, game strategy person. And they announced that Mike McCoy and Pat Sullivan, who are assistant hitting coaches, will do it. To doing a bench coach by committee, which is interesting because the Rangers have Will Venable as associate manager. So he's not even the bench coach. They wanted to make a position that's even higher, which I find interesting. So the Rangers have that sort of position on their coaching staff, and the Padres go like, nah, we'll have the pitching coach. You're supposed to be focusing on the pitcher to be the part of the bench coach responsibilities. It's one thing to ask the catching coach who's in charge of game strategy or some of the assistant hitting coaches, but like the pitching coach, that's stupid. Chris Sale, though, did sign a 2-year, $38 million extension, so he's under contract, obviously, with the Red Sox for another year or two, but they decided to keep him there, so that's pretty good for him. Good insurance because he's not always healthy for him personally. Mets have picked up Harrison Bader on a $10 million deal. That dude is a Gold Glove center fielder. I've been saying it for a while. He may have only one on his mantle, but he should have probably 2 or 3. Obviously, the Cardinals, in my opinion, made a mistake, trading for him because Tyler O'Neill in center field was a mistake. Dylan Carlson is aight in center field, and Lars Nootbaar is also aight in center field. They're not great. But the Yankees made that mistake because they ended up flipping him to like the Reds at the end of the season. And Jordan Montgomery, who they traded him for, wound up pitching really well for the Cardinals, flipped him to the Rangers, and he won a World Series with the Rangers. So it's like, you see how these dominoes effects are going. So the Mets get Pete Alonso's former teammate, and if he's a Gold Glove center fielder, and you're on Mark Canha and all these other guys blocking left field, here's what you do. You put Brandon Nimmo in left field. I know you're paying him all that money, but let him play left field every day, saves on his legs and injuries that he's had over the year. Or you keep him in center field and you move Starling Marte to left field and you put Harrison Bader in right field. I know that's outrageous, but you can do some maneuvering because Starling Marte is up there and is getting up there in age and can't stay healthy. Put him back in left field, a position he's played most of his career outside of a few seasons in center field and the last few in right field. But the best move was probably moving Brandon Nimmo to left field to keep him healthy for the amount of money they're paying for him. Cody Petit to sign a major league deal with the Yankees. I've never even heard of this guy. So that's interesting. He got a major league deal. Declan Cronin, the Astros picked him off waivers. The Yankees picked up former Royals outfielder Bubba Thompson off waivers recently after he was DFA'd by the Reds, I think. So that's just giving outfield depth. Ryan Jansen, the Twins off the waiver wire. Denny Reyes is taking his talents to KBO. Andrew Vasquez signed a minor deal with the Tiger. Astros DFA Joe Kuhnel. Michael Plastimer signed a minor deal with Pittsburgh. Chris Gittins, a former quad A first baseman of the Yankees, is going to the Astros. Who again, they have Singleton, I think, and Abreu. They don't need him. White Sox, as I mentioned, the Carlos Perez outrighting. The Reds outrighted Austin Wynns, even though they just signed this offseason to a split contract where you can be in the majors and minor leagues and more on the major league roster makes more money. They decided that, that having that Tyler Stevenson at catcher and as a Luke Malley or the other guy, Kirk Casale, whatever it is a good backup choice. Oscar Mercado decided my deal with the Padres, the former Cardinal and Cleveland Guardians outfielder. After trading Juan Soto and Trent Grisham, there's potential for him to get some at-bats in the outfield. He's not going to start, but he'll get some at-bats. Kevin Pilecki signed a minor league deal, and even though the Padres are going with Luis Campusano and they just picked up Hishigawa from the Yankees and they have Brett Sullivan, I could see the Padres having, because they've had some injuries, Pilecki gets some at-bats. He's a good defensive catcher. Bert Smith decided to deal with the Rays, and Dave Bush, after the Red Sox fired him as pitching coach, has been hired as director of pitching strategy. He's now replacing Mike Maddox. The Rangers beat reporter, for his name, make a big impact that he's just going to be another level of a former Major League pitcher and a former Major League pitching coach that helps out the Rangers pitching. And then Rob Manfred announced the last baseball story. Before I get to one more thing, the trade deadline is July 30th this year. I've always remembered it being July 31st, my mother's birthday, but sometimes it's been on August 1st. So that is the rest of that. And the last thing I want to get to is happy trails to Michael Brantley, the former longtime Cleveland and Astros outfielder who now is retired at 36, has always been injury prone. He came up as a center fielder with Cleveland, but they pushed him to left field because they knew that this guy was better suited to play left field because of his injury proneness, and he wasn't the greatest outfielder. For being a consistent offensive player where you can bat in the 2 spot and sometimes the 3 spot, he finished with over 1,600 career hits. Almost a lifetime 300 average at 298. 129 home runs, because again, he's not a power hitter, nor is he an RBI guy with 720, but he had 125 stolen bases, and he was a 5-time All-Star and consistently just hit every year. He had a 3rd place finish in the AL voting one. He finished top 10 in batting average 6 times. So like he's done a lot of stuff here before, and his father also played Major League Baseball as well. So being a White Sox fan, I'm not a huge fan of him because he would kill us when he was with Cleveland. Then he went to the Astros, and that's where he won his World Series titles, you know, like with the Astros, like. Because obviously they won the World Series. He beat the Nationals, obviously. I mean, they lost the Nationals, excuse me. So, I don't think he ever won a champion. I think he won the championship a couple of years ago, even though he didn't play in the postseason in 2022. But at least he got to say he has 1 ring. So when you retire and you have 1 ring on your mantle, a Silver Slugger on the mantle, and 5 All-Star appearances, and you have over 1,600 hits, that's like halfway to being a Hall of Famer because that's 3,000 hits. But that's pretty good. So again, I can respect the guy because he was a professional. He consistently had the same type of player every day and every type day. He was in the lineup for Cleveland and for Houston. Injuries just kind of ruined his career. Maybe if he wasn't always injured, he probably would have had over 2,000 hits maybe. But happy trails to Michael Brantley on his career. Thanks for listening to another edition of MLB Observations Week 8 of the Hot Stove, ending of 2023 season into 2024. From the Red Table Block, I'm Raider. See you guys next time.